Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to the chaos. If you're here, you already know this is where true crime meets real life, a little bit of sass and a little bit of side eye with a whole lot of how is this actually real? So, today's episode, yeah, it is one of those where you start thinking this could be interesting and then suddenly you're knee deep in stories that make you question everything. So, we are kicking things off with two headlines that sound completely made up, but unfortunately are very real. From an Easter egg hunt that takes a hard left into a true crime story territory, I don't know what word you'd use there, to a very suspicious overboard story that is giving every red flag imaginable. Then we are diving into our main case, the tragic story of Moriah Wilson. And when I tell you this one is layered, I mean lies, jealousy, obsession, and decisions that spiral into something completely irreversible. And of course, we will be wrapping it up with my mom moment because in between all of the chaos, I still have to be out here battling toddler snacks, surviving the Gummy Bear song on loop, and trying to convince myself that simply Cheetos don't count as calories. So, whether you're folding laundry, hiding in your car for 5 minutes of peace, or just here for the drama, let's get into it. All right. So before we get into our main case today, I need to talk about two stories that popped up this week because I'm sorry. What is going on, you guys? Like, if you needed a reminder that life is stranger than any crime documentary, here it is. We are breaking this into two parts because these two stories deserve their own moment and we're just going to go through them. So, first story, picture this. It's a wholesome family day, kids running around, plastic eggs, sunshine, and just good vibes. An Easter egg hunt at the park. And then the family stumbles across what they think is a rock sticking out of the ground, except it is not a rock, you guys. It is a human skull. I'm sorry, excuse me. Let's repeat that. A human skull. This happened at a park in Long Beach where a family was literally just trying to enjoy their day when they discovered human remains protruding from the ground. Just right there, surrounded by colorful Easter eggs. Like, I need you to fully process that visual. Pastel plastic eggs and then a skull. No, thank you. Police showed up, obviously, to confirm that yes, these are human remains, not fake, not just Halloween leftovers, like actual bones. The remains included a skull and a jawbone, and they were described as protruding from the ground, which somehow makes it even worse because that means that this person has been there for a while. Witnesses said that the family was like freaking out, which, yeah, I would simply pass away on the spot if I found a human skull during an Easter egg hunt. And neighbors were like, oh, we thought this was like a safe park, which, yeah, same. Probably everybody thought that. Because how do you casually go back to your jogging route like after that has happened? Now, here's the part that makes it even more, I guess, unsettling is the word I would use. At the time of the reporting, authorities didn't even know who the remains belonged to. Some people feared it could be a child, but investigators were waiting for forensic analysis to confirm anything. So now you've got a public park, human remains, no identity, and zero immediate answers. And I'm just sitting here like, how does this happen? Like, how does someone end up being buried in a park where kids are hunting for Easter eggs? And I think what makes this story hit harder is the contrast. This is supposed to be one of the most innocent, family friendly activities, but instead it turned into the opening scene of a crime show. Like, you cannot make this up. So now let's shift gears because if you thought that first story was unsettling, this one is giving major red flags. So, a woman named Lynette Hooker disappears during a boat trip in the Bahamas. Her husband, Brian Hooker, tells authorities that she fell overboard at night in rough waters and she had the boat keys with her, which conveniently shut off the engine. Okay, I'm sorry. Already, this is starting to sound like the beginning of every Dateline episode I have ever watched. According to him, he lost sight of her in the current and then he just paddled to shore. And I need you to sit with that part for a second. Your wife falls into the ocean at night, and the outcome is you make it to shore by yourself. Authorities launched a search, and the US Coast Guard gets involved, and then things start getting a little weird. So, because Lynette's family, they're like not buying this story at all. Like at all. Her daughter is like, this makes no sense. She was an experienced boater, so she had a lot of experience on the water. She is from Michigan. She grew up doing a bunch of stuff. We have a lot of lakes here. If you're not from Michigan, we have a lot of water. She knew what she was doing. And there were reportedly issues in their relationship. And then we get to the detail that really makes you go, oh, this is not good. So her husband didn't notify her daughter right away. There was like some kind of delay. And when he did reach out, it was described as like an oddly calm conversation, almost like emotionless. Sir, your wife is missing in the ocean. Why are you sounding like you're leaving a voicemail about a dentist appointment? So authorities clearly start side eyeing the entire situation because the daughter is speaking out, the family is starting to speak out, and shortly after that, he is arrested. However, there is no charge yet, but taken into custody for questioning as the investigation is now turning criminal. So, search efforts eventually shift from rescue to recovery. And at that point, we all know what that usually means in this situation. And here's what really sticks with me about this one. It's the pattern, because this isn't the first time we've heard a story like this, like he fell, she slipped, it was an accident. And then months later or years later, it wasn't. Now, to be very clear, at the time of this recording, nothing has been proven in court, but the inconsistencies, the timing, the behavior that this man is exhibiting, it's enough to make anyone go, yeah, something is not adding up here. And this is why I wanted to start the episode here, because both of these stories, completely different situations, have one thing in common. They remind you how quickly normal can turn into something dark. An Easter egg hunt, a boat ride, everyday moments until they're not. And if this is how we're starting today's episode, just wait until you hear what comes next. All right, guys, I need you to settle in for this one because on the surface, it looks like a love triangle. But the deeper you go, it is control, jealousy, ego, and a man playing both sides so hard that reality becomes just collapsed in on everyone involved in this situation. And at the center of it all is a woman named Moriah Wilson, AKA Mo. Also, that used to be my nickname, Mo, in high school. Anyway, Mo. She is a woman who is quite literally on the brink of becoming the most unstoppable cyclist in the world. So on May 11th, 2022, in Austin, a 911 call comes in. It's frantic, it's panicked. A woman is on the bathroom floor, covered in blood. That woman is Mo. And the person who finds her is her friend, and her nickname is Cash, who had opened her home to her while she was in town visiting for a race. So imagine that moment. You come home, probably expecting to debrief about your night, your day, maybe laugh, maybe eat some food, and instead you walk into a crime scene. Mo has been shot multiple times. This is not an accident. This is not random. This was intentional. Now, immediately, investigators clock something very important. There is no forced entry, doors intact, no signs of a struggle getting inside, which means whoever did this, Mo either knew them or trusted them enough not to see them as a threat. And just like that, this becomes a very personal situation. So Kaitlin, aka Cash, is brought in for questioning, and you can almost feel the shift happening in real time because while she is grieving, she is also realizing. Oh, they think this could be me. So she is swabbed for gunshot residue, she is questioned, and she is pressed for answers. And again, this is standard procedure, but it still feels brutal when you're the one who just found your very close friend like that, you know? So she tells them Mo had gone out that night or earlier in the day with a man named Colin Strickland. And now we have a name. So let's rewind a little bit because context here is everything. Moriah Wilson wasn't just another athlete. She was that girl. Before cycling, she was on the track to compete at like the elite level in skiing, like Olympic level dreams here, you guys, until she tore her ACL. And instead of letting that end her story, she kind of just pivoted into cycling. Like she got really into cycling and then just started dominating basically. And we are talking winning races not by just minutes, but sometimes by hours, which in endurance racing is basically like disrespectful to everyone else. Like she was something. She wasn't just rising, she was taking over. So in 2021, she meets a man named Colin Strickland. So Colin, he is established, he is well known, he's a bit of a big deal in the cycling world. Also, let's call it what it is. He is a little self-absorbed. He is a little like I am the brand of cycling. Like he thinks he's a big deal and he is not shy about it. So at first the relationship is just professional. I wouldn't even call it a relationship. I would just call it, like a friendship, somebody that's going to help her move upward in the cycling world. He helps her navigate sponsors. They talk racing. They're colleagues almost, I guess, in the same racing world. There's a mutual respect there, but there's nothing romantic until kind of maybe there is. So he is actually at that time in a relationship with a woman named Kaitlin Armstrong, not the same Kaitlin, that she's staying with. That's Cash. Okay. We're going to call her Cash moving forward. Kaitlin is the woman that Colin is in a relationship. So they break up and immediately he starts seeing Mo. And this is where I need everyone to just take a collective pause for a second because when timelines overlap like that, it's rarely clean. Yeah, spoiler, it's a messy situation. So let's go back to the investigation for a second. Police go to Colin's residence and this part just like kind of blows my mind. So they're like, do you know? So I guess Mariah's real name is actually Anna Moriah Wilson, but she just goes by Mariah. So they're like, hey, do you know Anna? And he's like, no. So that's weird. And then they're like, okay, well, what about Mo, last name Wilson, in the cycling community? And he's still just like kind of like struggling to find an answer, which I thought was super weird. And then finally, like, oh, it clicks, which also like you were just literally on a date with her yesterday. So whatever. And basically his reaction, it's completely off. It doesn't make sense. He doesn't recognize her by Mariah. He doesn't react to Mo right away. It's only when they say Wilson and the cyclist that he finally like connects the dots. Like, why are you so confused, Colin? Whatever. So they bring him in for questioning. And he tells police that he had recently purchased a 9mm gun, which like, oh, that's a little sus. So this gun, also the 9mm, happens to match the shell casings found at the scene. And now everyone's leaning forward, like, okay, can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what's going on here? So then we get into the phone because, yes, there's a lot of information on that phone. So Mo's contact in Colin's phone is saved under the name Christine Wall, which that's not Mo, not Mariah, it's Christine. And he claims he does this because his ex, Kaitlin, had access to his accounts. So he he needed to hide who he was talking to because I guess Kaitlin was like super jealous and whatever. Which, like, sir, if your life requires aliases in your own contact list, you are not managing the situation. The situation is managing you. So, meanwhile, Kaitlin, the girlfriend slash ex-girlfriend, this is where things shift from messy to dangerous, I would say. So we learned that Kaitlin Armstrong, the girlfriend, had actually called Mo directly at one point and told her that Colin and I are still together. You should probably stop seeing him. So now Mo is getting conflicting realities because in her world, she's journaling, reflecting, believing that she and Colin are casual, that they're both free to see other people. She even writes that they were kind of like on the same page after reconnecting in early 2022, except they weren't that way at all. So now let's fast forward. May 2022, the Austin trip. Mo comes into town for another race. She stays with Cash. That night, she texts that she's going out with Colin. They're doing drinks, swimming, just keeping it super light. And for a moment, it feels normal until it isn't. So at some point, Kaitlin calls Colin. He doesn't like answer the phone right away, but eventually he leaves and he tells Mo like, "Hey, we got to go back to the house." So, he's driving Mo home. And Cash later says that she regrets not being there. She's really got remorse because she feels like she could have changed the situation if she would have just been like, no, don't go hang out with Colin. And that kind of guilt really it stinks. It sucks. So now here's where the timeline situation is kind of coming together. Surveillance footage shows a black SUV, and they're taking footage from like neighbors' ring cams and stuff. So they see this black SUV pulling up near the house at like 8:37, and that SUV matches Caitlin's vehicle. Then a nearby home with like this continuous audio and video footage captures something like super chilling, and it's a scream followed by 3 gunshots around 9:15 p.m. This is the moment that Mo is killed. Police cross-reference everything. So Colin's phone pings at his house because he had already dropped Mo off. He's seen on camera elsewhere. So physically, he is not there. He is not at the scene of the crime. They cannot put him at the scene of the crime. But the gun tied to the casings comes from his house. And mind you, this is a house that Kaitlin had access to. And now everything is pointing in a different direction. So 6 days later, Caitlin's disappearance. She sells her Jeep, the same vehicle at the scene of the crime, and she sells it to CarMax. Then she gets a new phone. Like you can literally see her on camera, like setting up her new phone as her paperwork and stuff for her car is being sold. So she starts moving and she starts moving fast. Authorities track her movements to New York. They catch her on camera at the airport, but her passport doesn't show her leaving the country at all. So this part is really, really weird. So they dig a little bit deeper and they realize that her sister's passport was used to fly to Costa Rica. I'm sorry. What is this now? Like how planned was this situation to fly and meet your sister, then take her passport to leave the country? So she had dyed her hair, she altered her appearance completely, and then just to really commit, when she got to Costa Rica, she had plastic surgery to resemble her sister even more than she already did. And all of this within 45 days. This is not panic, you guys. This is a very calculated escape. Authorities eventually track her down at some like yoga studio or something like that because of course, like where else would she be maybe healing her soul or some shit? And then she's arrested. But wait, because she's not done being chaotic yet. Okay. So while in custody in Texas, she is taken to like a medical appointment or something like that. And then She runs away, you guys. She just bolts. She makes it about a mile before getting caught. And at this point, you're like, ma'am, this is not a movie. You are not the main character in a heist film or something like that. Like, you legit murdered someone. So, October 2023, the trial begins, and the evidence is very heavy. DNA links Kaitlin to the scene, which the DNA is found on Mo's bike, which Kaitlin at one point had just thrown it into the woods after she had killed Mo. So, digital forensics show her movements that night. They get this information from the Jeep that she sold to CarMax. And they see her driving, they see her circling, and they see her waiting. She is legit watching. She's literally stalking the neighborhood, waiting for Colin to leave so she can approach Mo alone. This is not impulsive, okay? This is premeditated. And the way it unfolds, it's so chilling. She waits, she enters, she shoots Mo twice in the head, pauses, then fires again right into her heart. Like, what is up with the pause? It's so obvious that the intent in this situation. So Colin now takes the stand. He looks just defeated. He avoids eye contact. He doesn't look at Kaitlin. When asked if he knows her, he basically says no. And not, I never met her, but it was more kind of like that version of my life no longer exists. I do not know this person, is kind of like what he's saying in that situation. And then the digital bomb drops. So remember Christine Wall? Yeah. Kaitlin had access to the iPad connected to Colin's messages. So at first, it looks like a harmless conversation with someone in the cycling community, until Mo, at the time when she arrived to Texas, sent a selfie of herself. And that's when Kaitlin knew that Christine Wall is Mo. And suddenly, that's when everything just like snapped for her and got real. On December 16th, 2023, this is when the verdict happens. Kaitlin Armstrong is found guilty. She is sentenced to 90 years in prison, and her reaction? Nothing. Nothing at all. There's no emotion, there's no regret, there's no acknowledgement. There's just like this blank stare. And you can watch this on Netflix. I forgot to mention that earlier, but this is streaming on Netflix. The aftermath of this situation is it's just sad. Colin now lives a much quieter life. People say he spends a lot of his time alone, and whether you agree or not, there's this lingering truth. Like, he didn't pull the trigger, but the web of lies and the secrecy and the overlap, it created this environment. And the environment like that, I don't know, they can turn dangerous fast with all the secrecy. And it's just tough because he did not pull the trigger. And I feel like it's almost a little bit unfair to say that he created this situation. What he is guilty of is lying. That's what he's guilty of. Cash still lives in the home that Moriah was killed in, living with what happened there. And she is trying to move forward, and she's trying to change the place to be peaceful, but it has changed forever. And at the center of all of this is Moriah Wilson, a young woman with talent, drive, and a future that was just getting started, taken because of jealousy and because of control, because someone decided that they couldn't lose. And that's, I think, just like the tough part here, because Mariah's mother even says, like, she was such a kind person. Like, if Kaitlin would have just taken a moment to have an actual conversation with her woman to woman, maybe none of this would have happened. And she describes her as such an empathetic person, and she would have understood the situation. But in reality, Mariah just wanted to bike. She loved her bike. She loves cycling. And it leaves you with the same question that is, just as heavy as the situation. Like, was any of this worth it? Because the answer is so painfully obvious. No, none of this was worth it. So that's the story of Moriah Wilson. There's a lot more to this. I encourage you guys to watch this documentary on Netflix. It was really deep and it was really sad, but I do feel like Mariah's story needs to be told just to keep her life and her accomplishments and her memory going. And her family is doing so with the Moriah Wilson Foundation. So, yeah, watch this one, guys. It was a good one. All right, guys, it is time for my mom moment. And this one is getting a little too real, I guess. So let's just talk about my weight loss journey for a second. Because on one hand, I am doing all the right things. I am fasting. I am being mindful. I am keeping my cortisol levels down, which honestly is getting easier because I'm getting more sleep, which has been a game changer. Like, who knew that not being chronically exhausted actually helps your body function properly? Revolutionary. But yeah, we love that for me. I am back to my pre-baby weight and everything's going great. And hopefully I can just keep going. I'm working on including more weight training and everything. But let's talk about the real villain in this story here. The thing that's testing every ounce of my willpower right now, simply Cheetos. I don't know if you guys have had these. They're not even regular Cheetos. No, they are the slightly healthier version, so you can, justify it Cheetos. And here's the issue. We buy them for the baby, and somehow I'm the one absolutely demolishing them. Like, I'll be standing in the kitchen and I'll just tell myself, I'll only have a couple. And then suddenly I look down and I'm like, why is the bag empty? Who did this? Oh, it was me. I did that. And it's frustrating because you're trying to be disciplined, you're trying to stay consistent, and then you're out here being personally victimized by toddler snacks. Like, this was not part of the plan. Nobody warned me that motherhood would include fighting for my life against a bag of orange puffs. And I will say, despite my ongoing, situationship with Simply Cheetos, I am still showing up. I am still fasting. I am still trying. And I think that's the part that really matters because it's not about being perfect. It's about not completely spiraling when you eat your child's snacks like a gremlin in the pantry. And speaking of the baby, we are officially in a new phase. And I don't know who introduced him to this. I think it was probably his YouTube scrolling. The Gummy Bear song. I'm sure you guys have heard this. It is a very old song, and I am hearing it regularly now on repeat all day, every day. There's no escaping it. He is obsessed, like full dancing, living his best life, pure joy. Meanwhile, I'm on my 47th listen thinking to myself, if I hear this song one more time, I actually might lose my shit. But also, it's kind of adorable because I can't even be mad at him because he's like super cute and he gets super enthusiastic when he goes, Gummy Bear. Like, he loves the song so much. What else he loves is Hot Wheels. Oh my God. The Hot Wheels. We're deep into it, you guys. Cars everywhere, under the couch, in my purse, somehow in places that make no sense. I literally found them I found a Hot Wheel truck inside a bag of cookies in the pantry yesterday. I can't make this up. Like, how did a toy end up in there or in the bathroom? I don't know. In the toilet. I have questions that I probably won't ever get the answers to. But watching him get excited over the smallest things, it's everything. And also, it's happening way too fast. There are days when I just look at him and I'm like, when did you get this big? When did you start having like favorites? And when did you go from a tiny baby into like a full personality with opinions and a playlist? Which, speaking of playlists, my Amazon playlist, oh, my Amazon is so confused. It's so confused. I'm like stuck between like toddler songs and like 80 songs. It's a very confusing time for my Amazon music station. Anyway, yeah, this whole situation is just like a weird mix of emotions because like I'm so proud of the baby and I'm so in love with him, but also it's like, can we just like slow down for just a little bit? Just like give me a second to catch up. So yeah, that's where I'm at this week, fasting but fighting demons named Simply Cheetos. I'm trying to be healthy but also surviving toddler snack temptations and soaking up every chaotic, loud, sticky, joy-filled moment with a little human who is growing up way too fast. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything, even if I had have to hide the Cheetos from myself. All right, guys, and that is where we're going to leave things today, from stories that make you question how something so normal can turn so dark to a case that honestly sits heavy no matter how many times you hear it. The story of Moriah Wilson is one that sticks with you, not just because of what happened, but because of how preventable it all feels when you zoom out and take a bigger look at the picture. And if there's one thing to take away from today's episode, it is this: pay attention to red flags, trust your gut, and never underestimate how quickly situations can escalate when emotions and ego and obsession get involved. And on a much lighter note, if anyone has tips on how to stop eating your child's snacks, specifically Simply Cheetos, I am taking applications. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and letting me share these stories with you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to follow, share, and send it to a friend who also loves a little bit of chaos with their true crime. So, on that note, I'm ready to get out of here. My little dude is about to wake up, and it is so nice outside today. We are going to go on another adventure. So, I will catch you guys on the next episode. Okay. Love you. Bye. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The facts are fuzzy. Our stories and opinions are just that: stories and opinions, not meant to be taken as professional advice.